If you're an agency or a brand who's looking to build your business, but you find yourself thinking, God, if I could just hire the right person, all of my problems will be solved, then this video is for you. Because what we're going to do together is put hiring back into perspective and just see it as a lever that you can pull to help grow your business, as opposed to it being the silver bullet that solves all of your problems. It's a subtle, but it's a very effective mindset shift. And what it does once you nail it is stop you thinking like an employer and make you think like a founder who's trying to build a scalable business. It's how we've built Interim to a team of over 100 with 0 employees, and it's how we help our clients do it too. But in order to do it really well, there are frameworks and principles to follow. So in this episode, we're going to go through some really good foundations that you can take away today and implement today to help your life building your business just a little bit easier. I've worked in agencies for nearly 2 decades in the digital industry, and the most common theme, common trend I see is that when any challenge crops up, whether it be resourcing, new business, people leaving, people moving, the default reaction is to hire. I need more people, I need more bodies, I need more hands on deck to solve my problems. What this video is not is anti-hiring, because I get that hiring is a very important part of growing a business. But what I want us to move away from together is having hiring as the default go-to when things go wrong. Because what we do when we panic hire, as I'm sure you're all very familiar with, is often lower our standards, maybe look at people that don't quite fall in line with our core principles, we hire too fast, and then it can be costly, timely, and actually do the exact opposite of what we want it to do and throttle our business as opposed to help it grow. And we don't want that to happen. So how do we prevent that? How do we mitigate that risk? And what principles can we follow to make sure that hiring is just part of the process as opposed to the be all and end all? At Interim, we've designed a framework we call CRAVE, which stands for Connections, Revenue, Automations, Values, and Empathy. We've got a whole other video where we go into the CRAVE framework, but for the purpose of today, we're going to focus on C for connections and V for values. Step 1, before we even think about bringing anyone else into our business, whether we're a business of 1 or a business of 5,000, we must have values in place. They must be clearly defined, and they must not just be a token checkbox exercise. They must be what you and your future team, current team, live and breathe and die by. If you do not have core values implemented in your business already, then do not pass go, do not collect £200, Monopoly fans. Do not take the next step and bring people in, because this is a non-negotiable step. At Interim, we have 6 core values: empathy, patience, diligence, ambition, passion, and joy. Every connection we make, whether it's client or freelancer or consultant or future employees, they must tick all 6 of those values boxes. Once you've defined your values, the next non-negotiable is objectives. Because as the leader of the business, you have to understand where you want to take things. And that doesn't have to be a gargantuan next step to an exit or to a sale. It can literally be, how do we get to our first client? And when you understand those objectives, you overlay them with the values you've defined, you create this really neat little package that you can then help connect the right people into to help you achieve those goals. And note how we've replaced the word hire with the word connect. The word hire comes with so much weight, I think, and so much pressure that you think, oh, right, a hire equals employee equals things like pension contributions, mentoring, HR law, all of this stuff. It does for me anyway, and I find it quite overwhelming. So I prefer to think about connections as growth facilitators for the right thing at the right time in the right place. They're a part of the process. So what do those connections actually look like? They can come in any guise, whether that be freelance, fractional, consultant, part-time, full-time employees. It's that distinction between being able to build an A team because it matches what you need at that time, as opposed to building a fully employed team because that's the way that we've always been taught to do it. And building those connections and finding the connections is one thing. But nurturing them and getting the most out of them is another. And this is where I think so many businesses and agencies fall down. And the reason those connections often fail is almost always down to the founder or the business owner who's given the brief. And I'm sorry that that's a really tough pill to swallow. It's one I've had to swallow many a time myself, but because I've swallowed it that many times, I can now confidently say that actually it's probably your fault because it was absolutely my fault when things went wrong. What so many founders do is brief by task as opposed to outcome. And the whole reason we hire is because we lack skill set in a certain area. So it does not make any sense for us to onboard an expert and then tell them how to operate. But what you do have as your core strength as a founder or a business owner is direction and vision and where you want to go. So instead of telling people what they should be doing, tell them where you want to go and let them design the bits that go in the middle. And to give you a real life example of that, I also work with two very senior fractionals who help me at a director level at Interim. One is a client partnership director, and the other is an agency growth partner who's also a qualified CFO. In order to get Interim to the next level, I recognise that I need people who have been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and can find the blind spots on me that I didn't even know I had. There is absolutely no point in me hiring a part-time CFO or a fractional client partnership director and then telling them what I want them to do on a daily basis. I have to get the most out of them, relinquish control completely. And instead, those two individuals know exactly what my goals are, exactly what our financials are, exactly what resources we have to play with, and then the rest is up to them. And it can feel quite counterintuitive, especially if you worked for yourself or by yourself for a long time, to relinquish all of this control. But actually, it's one of the most powerful things you can do. And what it enables us to do is empower people without having to employ them. And you may be thinking, well, why would I partner with consultants or freelancers? Because they're often really expensive or they're often really flaky, etc. Yes, there are exceptions to the rules. However, really good fractionals are building their own personal brands and their own reputations, project by project, client by client, business by business. And their next job or their next project is dependent on the one that they've done before, because it's another check in the box and another addition to their portfolio along the way. So it's in their best interest to have an invested interest in your goals. And it may sound like an expensive way to do things, but that's also a bit of a myth as well. Because when you partner with hyper specialists and you brief them on an outcome basis, you're always getting something in return and you're always edging forwards. And whilst the day rates may be higher than an employee's, we can't compare the two because it's like comparing apples and pears. And equally, if you get the long-term hire wrong, the amount that you can fritter away in money as well as time far outweigh the cost of partnering with an expert. So building connections is brilliant for delivery, but not only is it brilliant for delivery, it's also brilliant for mitigating risk. What I see time and time again is agencies lose a critical member of staff and everybody goes into panic mode. Clients start to feel unstable. The teams are way overstretched. The senior management teams all focus on replacing that person and growth stalls. To hire for that kind of position, you're looking at an average of 3 to 6 months. And not even then will you always get it right. However, if you've got this cushion of brilliant connections, you give yourself and your business the breathing space to step back and not immediately jump onto the first hire that walks through the door and instead helps you understand what that next hire should look like. So many times have we seen our freelancers and our consultants go into digital agencies and help those senior management teams with job descriptions, with interviewing techniques, with onboarding tasks, processes, etc. So that not only do you get support in the interim, but you also get a much better and a much more refined version of what you need for the next step going forward. So if you're thinking of hiring right now, why don't you pause for thought and think, what is it that's actually holding us back? And by doing that, following the CRAVE framework, understanding your values and your objectives, you'll save yourself a whole lot of time, a whole lot of money, and you'll get to your next step a heck of a lot quicker.